Whether it's in lesser-known leagues or Olympic competitions, anything can happen when it comes to sports, especially in women's competitions, which are gaining more prominence every day. The twist can be even more intense, catching spectators by surprise with scandals you have to see to believe, and that's exactly what you're going to see here today. So go ahead and leave a like, click the subscribe button below, and let's get started. Before a major fight, there is a moment that sets the tone for what is to come. The face-off, the famous stare-down between the fighters. However, on one occasion, this moment of tension was unexpectedly broken by an unforeseen gesture. During the stare-down between the Swedish boxer Mikaela Lauren and her rival, the Norwegian Cecilia Brækhus, Mikaela, unthinkable act, gave Brækhus a kiss. The stare-down is not just a ritual, it serves multiple purposes. It is used to intimidate the opponent and display confidence, an opportunity for fighters to analyze the opponent's posture, expression, and reactions in search of weaknesses. For the fans, it is a scene charged with tension and anticipation, but no one expected Mikaela Lauren to kiss her rival. Brækhus's reaction was a mix of surprise and disbelief. For an instant, it seemed she did not appreciate what had just happened. But instead of getting angry or reacting aggressively, Brækhus let out a genuine laugh, as if she were processing the absurd scene that had just unfolded. During the 2021 UEFA Women's Euro qualifiers, a match between Croatia and Romania took an unexpected turn when Romanian forward Laura Roos completely stole the spotlight. Her team was leading 1-0 in the second half when something unusual happened. After a collision with a Croatian defender, Laura nearly lost her shorts. The Croatian player, losing balance as she fell, instinctively grabbed Laura's uniform as she tried to keep up with the play. Laura, completely unbothered by her wardrobe malfunction, kept running towards the ball. She even made a jump to get her foot on the ball, but in doing so, she ended up revealing a little more than intended during the match. Her attempt to head the ball towards a teammate nearly resulted in a Croatian player getting hit, but thankfully no one was hurt. However, Laura eventually hit the ground herself after another run-in with the same Croatian defender. In the end, besides showing a bit too much, Laura also got the embarrassment of face-planting into the grass. During a pole vault competition, Slovenian athlete Jerneja Ritzel caused quite a stir and left spectators jaw-dropped due to a minor wardrobe malfunction. While preparing for her jump, Jerneja unknowingly exposed more than she intended because of an issue with her sports uniform. The incident, broadcast live to thousands of people, quickly went viral on social media. Despite the embarrassment, Jerneja kept her focus and executed her jump perfectly, receiving applause from the audience. However, the incident had already been captured by the cameras and soon became a topic among sports fans and journalists, who wasted no time in discussing the gaffe, sharing the video of the athlete with millions of people. Although Jerneja gave her all as an athlete, this incident showed that sometimes in sports, situations and small details end up attracting more attention than the competitor's own talent. The Kazakh tennis player Yulia Putintseva had a tough day at Flushing Meadows when she was defeated by the Italian Jasmine Paolini, a previous runner-up at major tournaments, in the third round of the US Open. The result left the athlete visibly frustrated and discouraged on the court. Amid this defeat, Putintseva displayed a moment of lack of control and arrogance that everyone's attention. During the match, in a gesture that created discomfort, the tennis player ignored the ball girl on the court. When the young assistant tried to hand her the balls, Putintseva turned away and let the balls drop beside her, all while glaring at the helper with disdain. This disrespectful attitude did not go unnoticed and was met with boos and murmurs from the crowd. However, after a few moments, Putintseva regained her composure and behaved more politely and respectfully. Recognizing her mistake, the tennis player took to social media to apologize for the incident, stating that she had been so upset and empty of emotions, so immersed in her thoughts that she no longer knew what was happening. Whether it is true or not, the fact is that the audience did not appreciate her attitude at all. Ireland's women's football star and Arsenal's number 11, Katie McCabe, always displays an indomitable enthusiasm on the field, sometimes a bit too indomitable, as she has been involved in various controversies due to her short temper and inexplicable acts of aggression. The media has even labeled her as insolent and unhinged. One of the craziest moments from the Irish captain was probably in a match where she literally used the ball to hit her opponent and former teammate, Chloe Kelly.
The team that loses a lot. Stanway bronze. And Ellen White were going to struggle. Well, that felt a little...
When the ball went out of play, Katie picked it up to throw it back in. However, before tossing it, she smacked Chloe with it as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Usually she ends up unpunished for these aggressive acts, but not this time. The referee blew the whistle and she received a yellow card. I'd love to know what excuse she gave the referee at that moment. Did she claim Chloe's head was in the way? In any case, Katie later commented on the episode saying she didn't do it on purpose. She mentioned that off the field, she's much calmer, but during the game, adrenaline takes over and clouds her judgment. She insists she never steps onto the field intending to hurt anyone. Whether that's true or not, that card left her sidelined for one game back then. A good opportunity to cool off and reflect on what she did to her teammate. At the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, German judoka Martina Trajdos grabbed the audience's attention, but not because of her martial arts skills. Instead, it was the slaps her coach, Claudio Pusa, gave her right in the face before she stepped onto the mat that caused a stir. Yeah, you heard that right. If it had been after a match and she'd lost, you might understand why he'd be angry. Not that it'd justify him hitting her, of course. But why would her own coach slap her like that before the fight? He also gave her a good shake, making the whole thing seem even more excessive, but Martina didn't question it. After the slaps, she headed into her fight like nothing had happened. After the video of Martina being slapped went viral and martial arts fans expressed their outrage, she had to publicly defend her coach and explain what was going on. Believe it or not, this is how she prefers to warm up. Getting slapped and shaken boosts her adrenaline, helping her get more focused for the competition. Even after hearing the explanation, many fans remained shocked and condemned the practice. In the final minutes of extra time in the 2016 UEFA Women's U19 Championship final, unbelievable moment left players and fans absolutely stunned. Nahikari Garcia, captain of the Spanish national team, had a golden opportunity to equalize against France. But what she did next is hard to explain. With Spain trailing 2-1, the ball landed at Garcia's feet, practically on the goal line. All she had to do was tap it in to tie the game and keep her team's hopes alive. Instead, she sent the ball flying straight to her home planet somewhere in outer space.
Arriba. Pelota arriba de Nuria Garrot, el despeje de la defensa, y está Sandra enchufaba, balón.
She seemed to be attempting to chip the goalkeeper, but the ball ended up way off target. The commentators were already shouting goal before they almost choked on their words in disbelief. The soaked field didn't help, but Garcia's miss went down as one of the most shocking missed chances in football history. At the World Swimming Championships in Budapest, American swimmer Anita Alvarez gave the audience and judges quite a scare when she fainted and sank to the bottom of the pool. Anita was performing her artistic swimming routine when she began to feel unwell. When the audience noticed she was acting strangely, the reaction was palpable. Her coach, Andrea Fuentes, jumped into the water to save her, bringing Anita back to the surface, where she received immediate medical attention. The medical team checked her heartbeat, oxygen levels, and blood pressure. Fortunately, everything seemed stable, but she remained unconscious, so she was taken to the hospital. The coach, who has 4 Olympic medals, recounted that even with all her experience, that was the scariest moment of her entire career. Artistic swimming is a sport like any other, where athletes need to exert themselves intensely. However, the difference here is that they are in the water, a dangerous place for humans to lose consciousness. And this happens more often than you might think. Holding your breath while performing all those movements can be extremely exhausting, pushing the body to its limits. Fortunately, Anita recovered and is ready to continue competing. An athlete can train exhaustively and prepare for everything, but that does not guarantee that errors will not occur. After all, we are all human. This is an inevitable aspect of sports, where perfection is the goal, but failure remains a reality. During an artistic gymnastics competition, an athlete was preparing to execute a balance beam routine. She seemed focused, confident in the hard training and refined technique she had honed over months. However, a miscalculation caused her to lose her balance and fall off the beam. The fall was a reminder that even the most dedicated athletes, those who reach high levels of excellence, can face setbacks. But the true test lies in how they get back up after a fall. The athlete quickly recovered, standing and resuming her posture with the dignity of someone who knows that each mistake is a lesson. The 2023 Women's World Cup final between Spain and England, held in Sydney, Australia, was interrupted by an unexpected incident that left many fans and even players momentarily confused. In the heat of the match, at the 24-minute mark of the first half, a masked pitch invader disrupted the game, causing chaos as he ran across the field while being chased by security and event staff. The intruder likely crashed the game to draw attention to the war between Ukraine and Russia, as he wore a shirt that displayed a message criticizing President Vladimir Putin, with the Ukrainian flag printed on the back. Thankfully, the invasion lasted only a few seconds, and the intruder was quickly restrained by security. The match resumed shortly after, with Spain remaining focused and determined. Spain secured a historic victory over England with a goal by Olga Carmona, earning their first ever Women's World Cup title. To perform a pole vault, technique and precision are essential. The pole is an extension of the athlete, the tool that propels them upward in a combination of strength, speed, and balance. But sometimes, no matter how perfectly everything seems calculated, things do not go as planned. That is exactly what happened with Molly Cottery, a British athlete known for her achievements and her bold and creative attitude. During a pole vault attempt, Molly started her run and prepared to execute the jump. But something unexpected occurred. At the crucial moment, the athlete was forced to let go of the pole, an error that, for many, would be a cause for frustration. But for Cottery, it was not reason for despair. Instead of simply accepting the failure and leaving the attempt without fanfare, she added a special touch to the moment. She finished her attempt with a pirouette, turning a moment of adversity into one of lightness and fun. This gesture was not just a trick, it was a demonstration of sportsmanship and creativity that enchanted the audience. And it was not the first time Cottery had done something like this. In 2022, at the European Athletics Championship final in Germany, she repeated the feat, showing that transforming a moment of failure into something memorable had become her trademark. Nigerian athlete Blessing Okabar experienced great embarrassment during her long jump event due to a slight hair problem. No one imagined what was about to happen. She took her position and started running, preparing for the jump, which she executed with tremendous skill. There was no issue with her performance. However, an accessory she was wearing on her head didn't stay in place. Before the jump, no one would have guessed she was wearing a wig. But after the accessory flew off her head, there was no hiding it. The wig fell off with the netting and all. Even the pins flew from her hair. The commentators and even event staff couldn't hold back their laughter. However, Okabar didn't show any embarrassment. On the contrary, she displayed maturity and resilience. After jumping, she stood up and simply awaited the measurement. Once the sandpit was cleared, she walked over to her wig, picked it up from the ground, and calmly placed it back on her head. A hilarious and unusual scene took over an international women's football match in Chile, and it quickly went viral on social media. During a friendly between Chile and Venezuela, held on June 26th at La Granja Stadium in Curico, the game had to be paused because a dog ran onto the field, grabbing everyone's attention. The black Labrador sprinted across the field, more interested in getting some belly rubs than in leaving. The dog ran up to Chilean goalkeeper Christian Endler, who, in good spirits, started petting the pup and giving it some nice belly scratches.
Está más difícil de marcar que todas las rivales en la cancha. Sí, tiene buena magia, buen enganche.
Eventually, after some persistence, the Labrador was escorted off the field by 2 players and a ball boy, allowing the match to resume. Unfortunately, in the world of sports, while many athletes are admired for their dedication, skill, and sportsmanship, there are always those who leave their mark through questionable behavior. That was the case of a women's soccer player who, during a match, carried out an act that made fans and fellow professionals roll their eyes. Amid a dispute for the ball, her opponent fell to the ground, and what could have been a moment of respect and care was turned into a scene of pure, unsportsmanlike conduct. Taking advantage of the situation, the player stamped her cleat on the fallen athlete, a gesture that showed a total lack of respect not only for her opponent, for the spirit of the entire sport, since the injured athlete could have suffered a serious injury at that moment. Rolanda Bell, a Panamanian athlete, grabbed attention during her participation in the Beijing World Athletics Championships. Not for a spectacular performance, but quite the opposite. During the women's 3,000-meter steeplechase, Rolanda made a blunder worthy of applause, causing her to fall headfirst into the water pit right after clearing one of the barriers, almost like a professional diver. Despite the dramatic images of her fall, Rolanda didn't suffer serious injuries. Determined to finish her race, she got up and continued running, even though she knew her chances of qualifying had literally sunk. The fall left her far behind the other competitors, and she crossed the finish line in last place with a time of 10 minutes and 33 seconds, more than a minute after the last athlete who qualified for the final. The incident was a tough blow for the athlete, who saw her dream of competing for a medal evaporate in front of spectators. However, her persistence in completing the race, even after such a dramatic fall, showcased her admirable sportsmanship. In November 2021, during a Women's Super League match between Aston Villa and Manchester City, something unexpected happened that caught everyone's attention. It all started early in the second half, when the ball went out of play behind the goal defended by Aston Villa's Hannah Hampton. As usual, she went over to a young ball boy to retrieve it, but to everyone's surprise, the boy refused to hand over the ball, holding onto it tightly, leaving the player and the audience bewildered. Hampton had to approach and even call the referee's attention to the situation, but the boy held on longer than expected. Although it was awkward for the goalkeeper, the scene got plenty of laughs and comments from the crowd. Apparently, the ball boy was concerned about the COVID-19 regulations in place at the time, which required the fourth official, not ball boys, to return the ball to the field after sanitizing it. In the end, after some persistence from Hannah, the boy finally handed over the ball and the game resumed, although it ended in a 5-0 defeat for Hampton and her team. From time to time, a soccer match can be so intense that the players end up forgetting some simple details. For example, during the Olympic Games of 2016, held in Brazil, in an exciting quarter-final match between the team from Brazil and the team from Australia, the forward Lisa Devana provided a comical moment that brought smiles to those watching. While trying to rehydrate, Devana got confused and ended up holding the water bottle the wrong way. Luckily, in a gesture of teamwork and good humor, her teammate, Elise Kellen-Knight, noticed the confusion and helped her out, allowing Devana to finally drink and recover to continue the match. This moment brought lightness and fun to a match that, like all great competitions, demanded concentration and grit. During the Paris Olympics, young Chinese gymnast Zhou Yaqin, just 18 years old, seemed a bit puzzled as the other two athletes on the podium bit their medals. The tradition is common among champions, but Zhou wasn't aware of it and had a surprised look that went viral on the internet, charming the public with her unusual reaction. Alongside Italian champion Alice D'Amato and fellow Italian Manila Esposito, Zhou watched with wide eyes and then just touched the medal to her mouth without actually biting it. Quickly, people online began saying that the Chinese gymnast's reaction seemed like a younger sister imitating her older siblings, and that's when Zhou won the hearts of the public. The tradition of biting medals isn't new. In fact, it's older than the Olympic Games themselves. Gold, being a dense and rigid metal, doesn't show teeth marks if you try to bite it. In the past, when gold was more common in commerce, people would bite it to ensure they weren't being deceived with a fake. Nowadays, the amount of gold we receive, such as in delicate jewelry, is so small that we don't usually go around biting it. But the tradition among medalists has remained, even though Olympic medals are no longer made of pure gold. It's a symbolic gesture that Zhou probably didn't know about. Her moment imitating the Italians generated many funny and endearing comments worldwide. If you have ever watched a tennis match, you have probably noticed that athletes tend to grunt a lot during play. However, as common as it may be, an unusual situation occurred during the Australian Open of 2011. The Czech player Sandra Zalavova and the United States player Venus Williams started a match not only marked by a fierce scoreline, but also by a battle of grunts. During the game, the players' sounds seemed to compete in intensity, even amusing the spectators. In tennis, many athletes use grunts as part of their technique to enhance performance. Studies suggest that this practice helps release tension, stabilize the body, and maximize force in each movement, something essential in high-performance sports. Additionally, the intense exhalation accompanying the sound contributes to more efficient breathing and reduces the feeling of physical exertion. Curiously, Zalavova, besides grunting louder, gained an advantage in the first set, reinforcing the idea that grunting can indeed help the athlete improve performance. Excessive grunting can also be seen as a strategy against opponents, potentially serving as a distraction for both adversaries and the audience. But who knows if you would keep a straight face while watching such a scene live on the court without bursting into laughter? A simple football match turned into a nightmare for New Zealand defender Michaela Moore. She was playing in a game against the United States in the She Believes Cup, when she made history in the most unfortunate way, scoring a hat trick of own goals by the 35th minute. The game, held on February 20th, 2022 in Los Angeles, started off normally. However, just 4 minutes in, Moore accidentally deflected the ball into her own net with her right foot, almost immediately after the ball went in again, this time bouncing directly off her face. The third own goal came later in the first half, when Moore attempted to clear a cross but instead sent the ball back into her own net. The crowd didn't hold back, teasing her with chants that echoed through the stadium. Shortly after her third own goal, a visibly shaken Moore was substituted. Even so, the match ended in a 5-0 defeat for her team, with 2 more regular goals scored by the United States. It sounds like a fable, but the clumsy Spanish athlete Laura Garcia Caro lost the bronze medal in the last seconds of the 20-kilometer racewalk at the 2024 European Championships. She was so close to the finish line but started celebrating before crossing it, giving Ukrainian Lyudmila Ulyanovska the chance to give it her all and overtake Laura in the final moments of the race, snatching third place right from under her nose. This must have been one of the shortest celebrations in sports history. She was just 5 meters away from securing the bronze medal, but by not staying focused on the race, thinking she had already won, she ended up losing her spot on the podium. Flavia Saraiva, a talented gymnast originally from the city of Exu in the state of Pernambuco in Brazil, was one of the great highlights of the Paris Olympic Games of 2024, enchanting audiences and winning admirers around the world. Born in 2000, Flavia is already recognized as one of the 10 best gymnasts on the planet, establishing herself as one of Brazil's greatest athletes. After moving with her family to Rio de Janeiro in Brazil at a young age, she quickly stood out in the sport. With only 1 meter and 48 centimeters in height, Flavia is known for her strength, technique, and grace, qualities that made her one of the leading athletes of Brazilian artistic gymnastics, shining even brighter during the last edition of the Olympic Games in Paris. During the gymnastics final, Flavia faced an unexpected challenge. In the middle of her routine on the uneven bars, she lost her balance and ended up letting go, falling abruptly and injuring her knee, which struck her eyebrow and caused a cut. Despite the accident, Flavia continued her performance with optimism, showing resilience and courage. This attitude made her stand out not only for her technique, but also for her emotional strength. Flavia's spirit was tested once again in the all-around final, where she suffered a fall during her presentation. In a moment of loss of control while executing her third jump, the athlete lost her balance and fell. Despite the set, Flavia remained positive and responded with a smile and an admirable attitude. In her interviews, Flavia Saraiva proved that true greatness lies in passion, optimism, and the willingness to overcome any obstacle, always with a smile, laughing at her mistakes, and celebrating every achievement, an inspiration to everyone who follows her. In 2017, the captain of the English women's rugby team, Sarah Hunter, experienced an embarrassing moment that caused quite a buzz during a quarter-final match against the United States in the World Cup. With strong determination, the then 31-year-old player was performing her role when an opponent, in a desperate attempt to stop her, ended up pulling down her shorts. The incident put the athlete in an awkward situation, exposing more than she intended to the entire world. It's not every day we get to see a full moon in broad daylight. This moment was captured by various outlets and shared widely online. Even after the incident, Sarah Hunter didn't let it affect her and continued playing, securing a landslide victory of 47-26 that advanced the team to the semifinals. Today, Sarah is retired from playing, but continues her rugby career as a coach, a position where, so far, she hasn't lost her shorts. On August 25, 2024, a women's college football match in the United States between Rutgers and Massachusetts looked more like a wrestling match than a football game. The pitch turned into a full-on battlefield. The game, held in Amherst, Massachusetts, went smoothly during the first half, but in the middle of the second half, things got wild. It all started when Rutgers forward Gia German committed a foul and hit the ground. While trying to get back up, Massachusetts player Ashley Lamond approached to grab the ball.
Boy, punches thrown in both directions, including an uppercut there, and
within seconds, the two players were throwing punches. As the chaos spread, they both fell to the ground and kept fighting until their teammates intervened. The brawl was so intense that both players received red cards and were suspended for the next 2 games, according to league rules. Despite the drama, the game continued, with Massachusetts clinching a tight 1-0 victory, proving that it's not just in men's football where things get heated. Heloa Almeida Camelo, a Brazilian diver, has been surprising the competition, standing out with several medals. By the time this video was recorded, Heloa was already a 4-time Brazilian champion in diving, not to mention various other titles where she had won or reached the podium. This success was possible because she has been training since she was a child. We'll undoubtedly hear more about this professional diver. In 2024, she turned 18 and is now ready to compete in more renowned leagues, such as the upcoming Olympic Games in the United States. However, it's worth noting that even the best athletes in this category can make unforgivable mistakes in the judges' eyes. Take, for example, Pamela Ware, who holds no fewer than 4 World Championship medals. In the finals of the 2020 Olympics, on the 3-meter springboard, the commentator had just mentioned that this was the most challenging dive of the event when Pamela lost her rhythm and ended up being disqualified. The pressure was too much for Pamela in that event. Realizing she might injure herself after losing her timing, she had to jump into the water feet first, which not only gave her a 0 score but also invalidated all her effort to reach that point. She was visibly shocked, but there was nothing she could do. Had she tried to regain her rhythm, she might have injured her heel or worse, and ultimately would have lost the competition anyway. A rare and heartwarming moment happened during a women's football match in Jordan, a Middle Eastern country. During the final of the Jordan Football Association Women's League, held in the capital city of Amman, a player from the Orthodox club faced an unprecedented situation when her hijab, the veil Muslim women wear, started slipping off her head. The incident occurred after light contact with an opponent, who accidentally knocked the veil loose. For Muslim women who wear the hijab, being seen without it in public can be extremely embarrassing and, in some cases, even considered a crime. The player immediately knelt down to fix her veil, but what happened next was truly surprising. 5 players from the opposing team, Shabab Al-Ordon, quickly gathered around her, forming a protective circle to shield her from view while she adjusted her hijab. All this happened while the game was still going on. Instead of taking advantage of the situation, these women showed true sportsmanship and solidarity, earning applause from the crowd for their touching gesture. At the 2019 World Athletics Championships in Doha, Qatar, 2 Chinese athletes, Lingwei Kong and Man Qi were involved in a real fiasco during their relay race, even going viral on social media after being disqualified due to their blunders. Towards the end of the race, China was already in a tough spot, trying hard to at least secure a bronze medal for their country. However, Lingwei and Man Qi got confused during the baton exchange. The already complicated situation worsened when they started running in the wrong direction and went beyond the exchange zone while desperately trying to correct the mistake.
A real head-to-head between Shelley and Fraser-Price. A real shame just seeing pictures here, the Chinese.
In a race where milliseconds can make all the difference, the time they spent confused while trying to exchange the baton was unbelievable. Even after crossing the finish line, China was disqualified for their disastrous performance. However, Lingwei Kong and Man Qi will certainly be remembered, not for the reasons they'd prefer, of course. During a Volleyball Champions League match, the Ukrainian player Yulia Gerasimova starred in an unusual moment that quickly caught everyone's attention. In the middle of the match, Yulia began interacting with someone in the stands, making some dance moves as if she were in a playful, flirtatious moment. Her spontaneous and charismatic attitude brought a touch of lightness to the moment, surprising both the crowd and viewers. Known for her beauty and striking presence, Yulia Gerasimova gained even more attention, solidifying herself as one of the most popular athletes in volleyball. But now there is the question, for whom was she dancing? Beatrice Chepkoch found herself quite embarrassed during the 2017 World Athletics Championships when she was competing in the women's 3,000-meter steeplechase. Unbelievably, Beatrice went off course in her event, bypassing the obstacles while all the other competitors turned left to face them head-on.
Didn't realise they needed to cut inside for the water jump. Fastest athlete in the world this year, who then had...
Chepkoch's mistake cost her a possible spot on the podium. She had to backtrack and go through the water jump, losing precious seconds and falling far behind her competitors. Had she followed the correct route, she might have won the competition, as her performance was excellent up to that point. The worst part was the embarrassment of making such an amateur error, something practically unacceptable in a world-class competition. However, it's important to remember that during moments of stress and exhaustion, such mistakes can happen. So why don't we see more cases like this? It highlights the level of excellence expected from global athletes. By making this mistake, Chepkoch illustrated how these athletes must perform not just physically but also maintain mental and emotional focus during competitions. In 2016, the Matildas, as the Australian women's national football team is known, were completely humiliated by a group of teenage boys, losing in a shocking 7-0 defeat in a friendly match. The game, held in Newcastle as part of their preparation for the 2016 Rio Olympics, saw the Matildas facing off against the under-15 Newcastle Jets boys team. This result stunned the sports world, as the Matildas were one of the favorites for Olympic gold, considered one of the best women's teams on the planet. Despite being without some of their international stars, the Matildas still had experienced players, including the famous Katrina Gorey, a former Asian Football Confederation Player of the Year. But even that wasn't enough to stop the disaster. The loss raised serious questions about the team's readiness for the Olympics. At the time, the Matildas' assistant coach admitted the result was unexpected and praised the boys' skill. In the end, the Matildas came close to beating Brazil at the Olympics but were eliminated in a penalty shootout in the quarterfinals. A heart-stopping moment occurred with a volleyball player, Mari Aquino, a middle blocker for a team in Brazil. In a tense play, Mari severely injured her left knee, drawing significant attention from the national press. Exams later confirmed she had torn ligaments and dislocated her patella. Her kneecap popped out of place during the fall. Imagine the agony and pain she must have felt at that moment.
Maiane, ele saque mais curtinho, Priscila para Galon, bola.
É bem sério.
Agora é sério demais. A dor que ela deve estar sentindo é algo inimaginável. Olha a repetição se você tem coragem. Meu pai do céu. Meu pai do céu.
Even with the severity of the injury, Mari surprised everyone by leaving the court on foot, supported by the coaching staff. She underwent surgery, and her recovery was slow, marked by her determination to return to her team as soon as possible. It took over a year and a half for her to get back on the court. Everything turned out well. Today, she is retired but can proudly say she was a champion abroad, with stints in Turkey, France, and the United States. Don't forget to subscribe to watch more videos like this.